episode 10 of my Prologue is Amazing podcast. Now, a few things I wanted to talk about. First, how to do Android development and iPhone development, like cross platform development with Prologue, because I was looking into this yesterday. Then I wanted to talk about some fun projects that I want to do in Prologue. Maybe I won't ever get around to doing them, but it's like something interesting that I would like to do eventually if I get around to it. So first, it's been suggested that Flutter is the go-to platform for developing cross-platform. So like if you develop using the Flutter toolkit, which is it's kind of it paints graphics to the screen, so it doesn't use the native platform of Android or iPhone or whatever. It does all of that for the web, for the mobile platforms, and for desktops, I think. And it uses the Dart language. The Dart language seems to be, from what I've seen so far, it's almost like Java, but maybe closer to, I don't know. I think it's somewhere between Java and Python, right? It's like a object-oriented, garbage-collected, C-based language, so kind of Java. I'm not sure why they didn't just do Java, but it's something close to that. So then where does Prologue fit in? So the Prologues then I started looking for is, well, maybe you need a JavaScript Prologue. And so then I came across Tau Prologue, just like a Google search led to it. Maybe a something that is in Dart, or maybe I have to write my own Prologue in Dart. Maybe that would be the way. But if there's a way where you can have some JavaScript library run on the Dart and Flutter platform, then that would be that you can use Tau Prologue. Another approach might be there is a Prologue source-to-source system where it takes Prologue code and turns it into Java code, which is Prologue Cafe. And so that's kind of similar to how Google Web Toolkit translated Java code into JavaScript code, like source-to-source translation. Now, maybe you could modify that so instead of taking Prologue code and outputting Java code, maybe you can do some work on that and take Prologue code and output Dart code. Now the Dart platform it's composed of widgets. Some are stateless, some are stateful. So maybe another approach would be just like to use Prologue to generate most of the code, like put out widgets and stuff. And I don't know how it works yet. Maybe there's XML, so you use Prologue code to output XML to do the user interface layouts or the widgets, and maybe some extra Prologue code that will output Dart stuff as kind of templated stuff, like simply output Dart or whatever. Like you try to write something that takes my Prologue code and turns it into like little bits of Dart code, but the majority of it, like classes and widgets, is all done from Prologue. So that is one thing out of the way. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was, so Prologue, as far as I can tell, doesn't have nobody's done X Windows window manager in Prolog, right? So for example, there's Xmonad. Haskell people did that. Then of course there's all the other window managers that in C, C++, like KDE, Genome. But I've seen stuff like people have done Lisp window managers from Sourfish. I think there's even an Emacs window manager of X. So maybe a Prolog window manager would be something to do to demonstrate the capabilities of Prolog, like the Haskell folks have done for Xmonad. So that would be a project. Another would be a text editor written in Prolog. So I would probably copy something like Vi, but right. So you do it in Prolog, and that would be an interesting project, and to show the abilities of Prolog. Like I honestly think it would kind of demonstrate how, because almost the operations of a window manager is like you can almost think in Prolog immediately, and there's no algorithms knowledge, right? Like computers are fast now, so maybe even your first pass at a very slow Prolog program would work for creating a text editor, and then maybe you can refine it. Also, extending Prolog into a relational database. So it's like, what does a relational database do? Well, it has a write-ahead log, so that transactions you do are written to disk before they're stored in the database, so that in an event of failure you can always rerun the transactions. So maybe what you can have is a Prolog engine that a write-ahead log you add a write-ahead log, so you replicate that functionality. Then Prolog already has a, like S2I WI Prolog already has a multi-threaded system, so it's like the database kind, where there's one thread writing it, but multiple threads can read. Now, I don't know if it will fully work as a relational database. Maybe they're doing something else, and how would transactions work in it? But maybe it can, or maybe it would be good enough for relational database. Maybe it would be a replacement for SQLite at the, that Prolog would be good enough. And then, so these are, and then another Prolog project I would like to do is, create a machine learning library in Prolog, right? So one would be a linear regression one, like a fast linear regression like Vaapal-Wabbit, with hashing, the hashing trick, and very fast linear regression. Another would be the neural networks in Prolog. And a third would be some kind of learning system where the output is not a linear regression or learning the weights of a neural network, but it's learning a Prolog program from the data. So you stream in data, and the computer generates Prolog code. Like it learns Prolog code that represents the data. I think it's known as something like inductive learning, like induction of Prolog from examples. And I think people have worked on this before. And another system would be simply like polynomial approximation, like you would get, like it would basically a linear regression but with lots of interaction features. Like I don't know if this is what factorization machines are, but so something like Vaapal-Wabbit allows you to do feature interactions up to 3 times, but maybe you need lots of feature actions up to hundreds or thousands of times. But that would overlog the memory of a computer. But what you could have is maybe randomly pick features and interact them. Don't interact all features with all features, like, and then against all features and all features. Like, you don't have the outer join, you just have random joins of features up to thousands long. So that's another project. And I mentioned before something about Prolog that translates into SQL. So you just write Prolog code, it translates into SQL code, and it comes out as, you can write your application in Prolog and have maybe SQL and PHP code, right? So you write your application in Prolog, and PHP comes out and SQL comes out, and it runs on Postgres and PHP. You're done there. So that would be another thing. I really wanted to explore the Kaggle dataset. So Kaggle does a dump of its entire dataset catalog, and maybe it has one for its models now and notebooks. And I would love to put that up into Prolog and explore that and generate useful output from the data, like what data sets are available and what could be done with them. Also, I like to connect up Prolog, of course, to all the large language models and image generation models and see what can be done. Also, Prolog's interface to the YouTube API and other APIs that are important on the web, right? Like maybe interface to Instagram, or maybe interfacing to the various web properties. The most important maybe would be YouTube. Also, I'd like to go through a data structures and algorithms book and re-implement all of them in Prolog and do it shorter in Prolog. Another project would be to go through Project Eureka and do all the exercises in Prolog. So that's my podcast 10.